Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of the second ever flight of Vulcan Centaur from the United Launch Alliance and its Cert-2 mission. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the launch pad, and here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad to have you joining us all live here this morning. It's currently 5:36 a.m. On the East Coast and the Space Coast. We are counting down now L minus 23 minutes, 25 seconds, and counting till launch. We are awaiting ULA to begin their live launch coverage, and the moment that they do, we will, of course, patch them in to bring you full live commentary coverage of launch through the flight of Vulcan Centaur. On your screen right now, we've been monitoring the weather through the evening. We were 80% go all the way through the night, and we just had an update from the weather officer saying that weather is observed and forecast to go for liftoff at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, according to the last briefing from Weather Officer Brian Belson. As always, if it's your first time here, though, take a moment, hit that like button. Let us know in the chat where you're watching from. I know we got people tuning in from all over the world, and we're glad to have you here. We got Helen watching in the UK. Mikey is in Earth. We got Short from Norway. It's great to have you here. We got Roy in Sydney, Australia. Jean Ryan, sorry if I say that wrong, is in the Philippines. Bertrand is in France. We got Ace Maker in India. It's great having you all joining us in live here this morning. We are expecting ULA to begin their live coverage in just a couple of minutes, and of course, once they do, we will patch them in live to listen in to that final 20 minutes of the count of Vulcan Centaur. Our TLP rocket chasers are stationed around the Space Coast this morning, as well as out on the Space Force base in preparation for liftoff. So make sure you stay tuned to our TLP shop. That is where you can follow along and get those limited edition posters and prints from today's liftoff, as well as all your favorite launches from our incredible TLP rocket chasers. You can also stay up to date on the latest space news at tlpnetwork.com/news. We have a pre-launch article out there, as well as our launch briefing over on the launch calendar. It's looked to be a busy October once Falcon gets reapproved for flight. Falcon 9 still grounded at this time, but we hope to see that resolved soon as it paves the way for the launch of Europa Clipper. But we're here for the second ever flight of Vulcan Centaur, which will pave the way for Vulcan to be able to flying classified missions for the U.S. Space Force. This was one of the requirements, is that they did need to fly 2 certification flights. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We will work on answering those live. We're going to transition over to this live view here, where we are awaiting the live coverage from the United Launch Alliance to begin. Once we have that, we'll be listening in there to their commentators for updates on how the count is progressing. L minus 20 minutes, 34 seconds, and counting till liftoff of Vulcan Centaur from Slick 41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Lots of people tuning in right now from all over the world. We got JBT in Devon, UK, Quinton's in Brooklyn, New York, Michael is nowhere in Kansas. We got Storm Raven in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Scad says, good morning, Zach, or should I say neighbor on the river from Rockledge. Great to see you. Thanks for being here. Bravo Alpha's from Perth, Australia. We got Arthur in the Netherlands. And we have Ian in New Zealand. Tindarius, sorry if I say that wrong, is in Germany. We got John in Utah. Welcome. It's great to have you all joining us here. So awesome to see so many locals from the area, as well as people just from absolutely all over the world joining us here live today. It's such an honor to get to live down here on the Space Coast, and that's only because your guys' support of just watching and sharing and making this all possible. We really do believe that space is better together, and that's only possible thanks to your guys' support in picking us as your live launch commentators. ULA is now beginning their live coverage, and we appreciate that ULA does allow media to rebroadcast these launches for editorial coverage. So that's what we are doing, providing our own commentary for the launch. We will, of course, be listening in to their mission control for updates on the timeline as well. If you haven't yet, take a moment, hit that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us as we count down now L-minus 18 minutes, 54 seconds, and counting. Once we have a T0 on the clock from ULA, we will resync our clock with theirs, as there's always a bit of a time delay on the video feeds. But this is it. We are now less than 20 minutes away from the second ever flight of Vulcan Centaur. This flight originally was supposed to fly the beautiful new mini shuttle, the Dream Chaser, but it was not ready, so it is a certification flight of inert payloads to prove that Vulcan is ready. As the ULA team runs their intro, we'll get ready to listen in to them. You can continue to send in your comments and questions in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad. We'll work on answering those live. Also, don't forget to join us over on the TLP Discord. It's where our community hangs out in between streams, and we would love to see you there. L-minus 18 minutes, 5 seconds, and counting. Again, if you haven't yet, take a moment, share out the stream, invite people to join us as they watch history of the second ever test flight of the Vulcan Centaur from Slick 41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Let's listen in to ULA Mission Control.
Commander Linhoff, a systems engineering leader at ULA and your host for live coverage of today's Vulcan launch. I'm joining you from ULA's Advanced Spaceflight Operations Center at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Thanks for getting up early for the second launch of ULA's Vulcan rocket. Today's flight is dubbed Cert-2, signifying the second certification mission for the new Vulcan rocket. The first certification flight successfully lifted off earlier this year. The Vulcan rocket will continue ULA's legacy of support to our U.S. government, civil, and commercial customers. And with today's flight, we'll move a step closer to certifying Vulcan for government missions. We'll learn more about certification throughout the broadcast. On board the Vulcan rocket is an inert payload along with several tests and demonstrations for future Vulcan capability. Liftoff is scheduled for 6 a.m. Eastern at the top of our 3-hour launch window. In addition to watching our webcast, you can also follow live mission progress at ulalaunch.com. About 40 minutes ago, the count entered a 60-minute planned hold. We have 2 planned holds in our launch count, which give our team additional time to resolve any issues prior to entering the terminal count. At this time, the team is not working any issues and we are proceeding towards an on-time liftoff. Live coverage this morning will continue through second main engine cutoff, which occurs at about 35 minutes after liftoff. To kick us off, let's learn more about today's flight from ULA's President and CEO, Tori Bruno.
We are coming up on a very important and exciting launch. This is our second flight of Vulcan, which is also our second certification mission.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are counting down now, L-minus 15 minutes, 40 seconds, and counting. ULA currently sitting at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. This is part of a planned pre-built hold to the Vulcan Centaur timeline. Similarly to the Space Launch System from NASA, 2 countdown clocks are used for the countdown operations, L-minus and T-minus. L-minus is like your real-world time. You know, in 15 minutes and 20 seconds, you got time to go get that drink, run outside if you're going to watch the launch. That T-minus clock that's sitting at 7 minutes is more operational. So many things have to be done by that point, and it's able to kind of be a checkpoint that if everything's not done by then, they're able to have a very clear understanding if they're going to be able to make a T0 that they're set and targeting. It also gives them time to have extra time in the count to be able to check that everything is ready, and sometimes they're ahead of that timeline, but they'll still hold at that point until they're ready to go. So yeah, I just went to the shop and just checking out, getting a t-shirt. Awesome, I appreciate that support. If you're just joining us, we're now less than 15 minutes away from the second ever flight of Vulcan Centaur, the second certification flight. Tori Bruno, the president and CEO of the United Launch Alliance, giving a little chat here about the flight. Unfortunately, it does have some beautiful copyrighted music on it. ULA really likes that music on there, so unfortunately we can't play that, but we will listen back into Mission Control the moment that they begin their actual live commentary coverage. Coming down to L-minus 14 minutes and counting till launch. You're looking at a live view of Slick 41, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida.
As we look at the Vulcan rocket on the pad, we see the American flag across the inner stage with the ULA and Vulcan logos on the payload fairing. Though it's hard to see now with the booster filled with cryogenic propellants, the Vulcan logo is also wrapped around the first stage. And a portion of the booster includes spray-on foam insulation or SOFI to improve thermal protection and enhance performance. Let's learn more about this innovative new rocket.
And with another beautiful video of copy-printed music, we're at L-13 minutes, 7 seconds, and counting till liftoff of Vulcan Centaur. You can see some footage here of its rollout just a few days ago from the VIF out to the launch complex, and now taking a look at how Vulcan Centaur is developed. Definitely really amazing to see how public United Launch Alliance has been with the development of the Vulcan Centaur and how they hand paint the vehicle. The Tory Bruno has confirmed that not every Vulcan will get this paint job. It is definitely something we'll see on the earlier versions, and then eventually they're not expecting that we'll have that full paint job around the first stage. It adds weight, it adds time, and they want to see this begin to fly every other week. Every 2 weeks they want to see a Vulcan fly in the next year or two. United Launch Alliance did say, I believe it's next year, they're targeting 14 launches. That'll be split between Atlas and Vulcan. So that means next year we'll see 7 Atlas and 7 Vulcan missions. Generally takes a couple of weeks to switch between the two, so it's going to be a pretty busy schedule there to run that in. That's definitely going to point to kind of a launch every 3-ish weeks or so, 3 to 4 weeks for the United Launch Alliance next year. And we're super excited to see that cadence come from them and really brighten up the Space Coast even more with more rockets flying other than just Falcon 9. Later this year, we're also expecting the maiden flight of New Glenn from the Space Coast, bringing in another launch vehicle. It's going to be a really exciting future of having SOS, Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, Vulcan, Atlas, and New Glenn all launching from the Space Coast within months of each other and becoming quite frequently launched as well. Slick 41 is the same pad that launches Atlas and the Atlas Starliner to the International Space Station, so it looks familiar. That's why it is that same pad. Long run, it will just become a Vulcan pad once Atlas is retired, but we still have another few years of Atlas launches. D says you need a triple espresso. That sounds fabulous, D. That does sound really good. We might have to just order one of those. Still have to get a coffee maker for the studio. Still moving down, settling in. If you're just joining us, let's listen back in to ULA Mission Control. L-minus 10 minutes, 30 seconds and counting.
As we approach the terminal count poll, let's check in with Arlena Moses to share today's Space Launch Delta 45 weather forecast.
Thanks, Andrea. We just heard from our lead launch weather officer stating weather is great for our launch this morning. And if we take a look at radar behind us, we can see we've had just enough dry air move in over the past 24 hours that has pushed most of our storms and showers that are happening overnight down to our south. The little bit of activity we have up across to our east over the Atlantic Ocean remains a little too shallow and a little too far to our east to be a concern here over the next couple minutes. Our main area of concern here is within this white ring, which represents 10 nautical miles. So if we go here and take a look at our forecast here, we're going to only be looking at a POV of down to just 5% with no significant launch weather concerns tracking. Winds are going to remain from the east, this light breeze about 10 to 15 knots, with temperatures around 80 degrees this morning. Weather looks great for the launch. And back to you, Andrea.
And we have just had an update come through. Launch conductor Dylan Rice has informed the launch director Eric Richards that the launch team will need a few extra minutes to complete preparations, so they will not be resuming the countdown to liftoff at the opening of the window. We have a window from 6 a.m. till 9 a.m. A new targeted launch time has not yet been set, but the moment that we have that, we will, of course, update our T0. Let's continue to listen in to launch control.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. Launch conductor Dylan Rice has informed the launch director that the launch team will need a few extra minutes to complete preparations. At this time, we will not be resuming the countdown for liftoff at the opening of the window. A new target launch time has not been identified.
In that update, they did say just a few minutes, so I do not expect this to be a huge timeline shift, but we'll be keeping a close eye as we approach that T-minus 7-minute mark. We will be holding at that point until teams are ready to do that go, no-go for terminal count. Let's continue to listen in to ULA launch control as we await that final go to enter the terminal countdown for the second ever flight of Vulcan Centaur. Some great people tuning in just in the chat. Scat, I wanted you to be able to see the launch in the dark. I'm close enough, I'll still feel it. We're probably only 15 miles or so from the pad.
LCS on 1.
Let's listen
Go ahead.
Step 950, all secondary decoms verified on RF link.
Roger.
We are listening into the live mission control nets.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. You'll frequently see today that there's a VC2S for our configuration that we're flying. The V, the first in this configuration, stands for Vulcan. C, the second, is our Centaur upper stage. 2 indicates the number of solid rocket boosters, so for today that's 2. And then S is standard, and that is our payload fairing length.
And if you're just joining us, you're looking at a live view of Space Launch Complex 41, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. We are currently holding at T-minus 7 minutes, awaiting the launch control team to say that they are ready to proceed with terminal count. We will have a go, no-go poll before that, so we're listening in for them to say they're ready to conduct that go, no-go poll. Once they do that, the clock will be approved to begin running. If you haven't yet, take a moment, hit the like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us. I got a few more minutes to get on here. We do have a 3-hour launch window today, but they did say that they're only going to need a few minutes here, so we should see this launch countdown pick up in the next few minutes. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another live launch coverage. Stay up to date on the latest with our TLP launch calendar at tlpnetwork.com. We are listening into those live station launch control communications, So used to talking about the International Space Station. No, we are launching today and not to the ISS. Today is a certification flight with an inert payload on board. This flight was originally going to see everyone's favorite new mini shuttle fly, but Dream Chaser was not exactly ready for this. So they are flying a certification flight to continue to proceed with their timelines and being able to start flying those National Reconnaissance Office and Space Force missions on Vulcan Centaur. Wide shot, Slick 41, all lit up in red, as it normally is, with the beautiful big spotlight on that ULA Vulcan Centaur, which is fully fueled, ready to go, holding T-plus 7 minutes and counting. When we get that go to continue the count, timeline's going to move very quickly to liftoff. If you happen to be out on the Space Coast and take photos or videos of today's launch, make sure you send those to us over on the TLP Discord, in the ULA chat, and also on social media. TLPN_official on X, or the Launchpad Network on Facebook and Instagram. Waiting an update from Mission Control. So we continue to hold at T-plus 7 minutes, waiting for that go, no-go count to enter terminal count.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. The Vulcan launch vehicle experienced a data dropout which caused the ground systems to stop propellant flow to the rocket. The team has configured the systems to resume flow, and we are working to establish a new T0 shortly.
ULA always being transparent there, but interesting to hear. A dropout of a computer led to the propellant being halted. So they are working on getting that vehicle top back up, ready to go for flight. As we said, we don't expect this to be a long delay, but of course they want to make sure that everything is set to go. The window opens in 3 minutes. We're holding at T minus or T plus 7 or T minus 7, excuse me, as we wait that go no go poll. We are listening into launch control, so any updates we hear come across the net, you'll be able to hear it as well as we continue waiting for that final go no go polling of the launch teams across all of the United Launch Alliance for liftoff here this morning. Weather 95% go, and that's basically as good as you get down here on the Space Coast. So a really great sign. Weather cleared out following the hurricane, clearing the way for Vulcan Centaur to have some great skies to fly through on its certification to flight.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. Building on more than 130 years of combined Atlas and Delta launch experience, ULA's Vulcan rocket introduces a balance of new technologies and innovative features to ensure a reliable and accessible space launch service. Let's hear more about this incredible launch vehicle.
Another ULA launch means another video with beautiful copyrighted music. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live. Great question coming in from Colin Van. Is this pause normal for this? So this is only the second ever time they've flown Vulcan. So we're starting to learn its timeline and learn what's kind of a normal thing for it. But yes, they are absolutely able to hold here. That's one of the ways they run their timeline. So we have 2 countdowns that run today, T minus and L minus. Right now, both are holding at that 7-minute mark. But if you've been joining us through the night counting down to launch, we've had an L minus clock running most of the evening, even though we've had a T minus clock technically paused for a large portion. The T minus clock is more your operational clock. You know, we need to be fueled by T minus 7. We need to have weather go by T minus 5, things like that. There's set milestones you have to achieve by certain numbers. The L minus clock is your real world clock, and that's why we use it here on the launch pad for you guys, because that's your real world time. You know, with the Space Launch System, they can hold at T minus 2 minutes, and they can hold there for hours if they wanted to. But that doesn't help you knowing if you have time to go get another beverage from the fridge or use the restroom or go get your friends and family from the other room to watch the launch. So the L minus clock's a lot more practical, and the United Launch Alliance does use both actually in their mission control. You're seeing some videos here of how the Vulcan Centaur is built in the ULA factory, and then it is using their rocket ship floated down through the river around the Gulf over here to the Space Coast. If I remember correctly, I want to say we actually have 2 Vulcans now on the Space Coast sitting ready to go. So this one out on the pad, and they have another there. You can see on this video, though, that they would build Vulcan and Atlas using that same kind of step-by-step process down the factory floor, and then kind of raw materials in one side and rockets out the other side. And there's that rocket ship where Vulcan gets rolled out and then rolled to the pad where it is vertically stacked, the booster, the second stage, the payload fairing, and those SRBs. Now, Vulcan has the option to fly with 0, 2, 4, or 6 SRBs attached. Be really interesting to see 0 at some point, but there is video footage from the first flight. You're looking at a live view of Slick 41, so we await that go, no-go poll. Let's listen back in to Mission Control.
ALC. Go. Countdown clock has been reset with a new T0 of 10:30 Zulu. We are currently at L-29 and counting.
Roger.
And there's that update we were wanting. New T0 set, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. L minus 27 minutes, 40 seconds, and counting till launch. That's a great sign that things are progressing.
LC, RC. Go. The range has approved our new T0 of 10:30:00 Zulu.
Roger.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T minus 7 minutes and holding. A new T0 has been identified at 6:30 a.m. Eastern.
Perform Centaur LO2 fill and drain valve cycle test.
Roger.
Fuel 2, perform Centaur LH2 fill and drain valve cycle test.
Roger.
Fuel 2, yeah, okay. You copy. Fuel 2, LC.
Go ahead.
And I just wanted to ensure you copied the transmission to re-perform the fill and drain valve cycle.
Affirmative.
Roger. Has gas, establish scan patterns 62 and 63.
Roger.
And if you're just joining us, you're looking at a live view of Space Launch Complex 41, where Vulcan is being topped off, ready for flight. We have a launch window from 6 a.m. till 9 a.m. Eastern Time, current time 6:04. Now, Vulcan would have been in the air at the original T0, but we have a new T0 set for 6:30 a.m. Eastern, or just over 25 minutes from now. They had a system kind of glitch, which ended up stopping them topping the
This
fueling.
is Vulcan Mission Control at T minus 7 minutes and holding. Launching rockets takes the coordination of a team of experts. Let's hear from launch conductor Dylan Rice on what it's like to lead a team on launch day.
They had a little bit of a glitch with one of their computers on topping the fuel on the rocket, but they've recognized that, they've solved that issue, and now they are topping the vehicle and going through those final pre-launch checks. Around the 10-minute mark, or L minus 10-minute mark or so, that is when we will have a go-no-go to enter terminal count, go through all the teams at ULA and Vulcan to make sure everything is ready for flight. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live. Now under 25 minutes and counting till liftoff of Vulcan Centaur.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. ULA builds Atlas and Vulcan rockets in a 1.6 million square foot facility in Decatur, Alabama. Here's a look inside.
And ULA continuing to play some more videos with beautiful copyrighted music. So we're at L-minus 20 minutes, 33 seconds, and counting on the L-minus clock, T-minus 7 minutes, and holding on the T-minus clock as we await that final go for terminal count. We got lots of people just tuning in from all over the world. If you haven't yet, take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from, and while you're doing so, engage that like button. It's free to do and really does help us out. We're answering your guys' comments and questions in the chat. Just make sure you're tagging us at the launch pad so we can see those questions come in here as we continue through this next 20 minutes or so. We'll have that terminal count go, no go in about 10 minutes time, and that's when everything will begin to pick up and progress in the timeline. Taking a look at the weather here on the Space Coast, it's still obviously dark as we're awaiting sunrise. But weather looking nice and clear and ready for today's liftoff. We got James watching from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Helen's in the UK. We got Timbo in New Zealand. We got Amy in Michigan. Sarah is in Northern Alberta, Canada. Great to see another Albertan here. Vision is watching from Mars. I don't know how he beat us there, but he's there. ASPR is watching from the United Kingdom as well. Great to have you here. Coney's asking, are there any payloads? So today's flight is a certification flight. It was originally going to fly everyone's new favorite mini shuttle, the Dream Chaser, but that was not ready to go. So on board is an inert payload that holds experiments and demonstrations specifically for the certification for the United States Space Force. After delays in payload testing for the Sierra Space Dream Chaser, which was the original payload. So there will not be specifically a deployment payload for this mission, but it will be carrying 1,500 kilograms of inert payload and experiments to a heliocentric orbit. And the orbit's very specific, and this is part of the demonstration of the Vulcan Centaur to have it ready for those missions for the United States Space Force and the National Reconnaissance Office. Vulcan stands 61.6 meters tall with a 15.5 meter fairing. That's its standard fairing. The fairing has a 5.4 meter diameter. Well, really the whole vehicle does. It's all the same size. And it has the option of 0, 2, 4, or 6 of those SRBs strapped to the side. For today's flight, we're just going to see 2 SRBs on board. At liftoff, Vulcan produces 8,952 kilonewtons of thrust. It's able to carry over 19,000 kilograms to low Earth orbit or 8,400 kilograms to geostationary orbit. Today it'll be carrying 1,500 kilograms to that heliocentric orbit. Now coming down to L-minus 17 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. Should be able to listen back in to ULA launch control here in just a moment as we go through those final minutes of the count, awaiting that final go to enter terminal count. But if fueling top-up went well and they've fixed that issue, I would expect us at that T-minus 7 minute mark for that launch countdown to pick up. We got lots of people tuning in. We got Micah in Belgium. Welcome. We got Connie. Connie is in Sweden. We got Triple in Korea. Welcome. We got Joe in St. Petersburg, Florida. Welcome. Great to have you here. A little bit of an early morning for us on the Space Coast, but that's exciting, though, because it means that we have a launch. It's been a little bit since we've had one with Falcon being grounded, so it's always a good day when there's a launch from the U.S. Space Coast. Mike asking, really good question. How relevant is Vulcan in today's launch market? Does it fulfill a particular need? That's a really great and big question. And right now it does. There is the concept that Vulcan could do smart reuse in the future, which is they would actually not recover the booster of the first stage, but they would recover just the engines. And they've actually flown a test flight of an inflatable heat shield that would be used to bring just those engines back. When we talked with the company Skyroar out of the United Kingdom, they explained to us that the cost of one engine is equivalent to the cost of the whole first stage's tanks and booster. So to them, it's more important to recover those multiple engines than it would be for them to recover the booster, which does change how they can look at recovery. The United Launch Alliance is not currently publicly, excuse me, my apologies. ULA is not currently actively working on that per se, but it's something that could happen in the future. They have worked on it, but at this time they're just getting ready to fly Vulcan in an expendable configuration. The Vulcan is very much designed in a way of almost being like a government rocket. A government launcher, similar to ESA and Arianespace's Ariane 6. It is designed to carry classified payloads for the U.S. Space Force, National Reconnaissance, and things like that. Now, Vulcan is also sold commercially, so there are commercial missions on it. So it's kind of filling those two voids. With Falcon 9 and with New Glenn and with Starship and so many other options, it really comes down to who's cheapest and who can carry the most. But it is definitely designed around replacing Delta IV Heavy, Delta II, the Delta program, the Atlas program, all into one vehicle that offers a wide range of what it's able to carry at a lower cost. So it's a really great question. Is it still a valid vehicle? Absolutely it is. It is ULA's new vehicle. If they could get smart reuse working, that'd be even better. Is full reusability or full refurbishment, kind of like Falcon 9, something that everyone's pushing towards? Yes. Can Vulcan do that? No. But that doesn't mean there isn't a place for it still in the market. There will always be payloads that need to fly on launch vehicles that are fully expended. So that's a really great question. Thanks for sending that in. Loa Manzi says, thanks for the stream, Launchpad. I appreciate it. Scott says, since you're tired, I'll bring you over some Starbucks. I wouldn't say no. I would not say no. Yeah, coffee would be good. Moved down here about a month ago, and I still haven't bought a coffee maker. We definitely need to get a coffee maker here into the TLP studio. We were working on some projects last night. Well, technically this morning. So, a shorter day, but that's okay. It just means we all get to have a nap after liftoff. L minus 13 minutes, 20 seconds and counting.
1, initiate post-liftoff launch head umbilical purge autofile.
Roger.
Now listening in to ULA launch control. L minus 13 minutes and counting. Awaiting that go, no go to enter terminal count and resume the clock. Tori Bruno, CEO of ULA, has said engineering is go on X. That was just 30 seconds.
14 minutes.
So everything proceeding. And there we heard
1, perform G&G snuffer purge cycle test.
Roger.
L minus 14 minutes. So we'll update our T0 there, meaning we're running about a 90-second delay from United Launch Alliance. We'll update our T0. Let's listen in as we prepare to resume the clock.
Go.
First step, 1040, launch sequencer overrides established.
Roger.
LC, PNA2.
Go.
CUC airborne pre-chill is complete. Recorded time 10:16:13 Zulu.
Recording 10:16:13 Zulu.
Good copy.
L minus 13 minutes.
Flight control, perform launch on time, verification.
Roger.
OSM, place SRB ignition SNA switch in the enable position.
SRB ignition enabled.
Verify the FCO, ROC, and OSM hold fire switches are in the proceed position.
Ready to proceed.
RC, verify solar radiation acceptable for launch.
Verified.
CNE-1, verify post-liftoff launch head umbilical purge is configured for launch.
Verified.
LC Prop 1.
Go.
G&G Snapper Purge cycle test complete.
Roger.
LC flight control.
Go.
Launch on time verified.
Roger.
minus 12 minutes.
RLM, verify red line monitor and event table in the correct configuration for terminal count.
Verified.
LC LOX 2.
Go.
Centaur LO2 at flight level.
Roger.
LC Fuel 2.
Go.
Centaur LH2 at flight level.
Roger.
And the U.S. Space Force Eastern Range. The vehicle system readiness poll includes electrical systems, hydraulics, pneumatics, propulsion systems, flight control, and propellants. Let's listen in as Dylan Rice performs the final polling.
minus 10 minutes.
Status check to proceed with terminal count, Vulcan systems, propulsion,
Go.
hydraulics,
Go.
pneumatics, go, LNG,
Go.
LO2,
Go.
water,
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion,
Go.
pneumatics,
Go.
LO2,
Go.
LH2,
Go.
has gas,
Go.
electrical systems, airborne, go, ground,
Go.
facility,
Go.
RFFTS,
Go.
flight control,
Go.
TCQ,
Go.
op support,
Go.
comm,
Go.
umbilicals,
Go.
ECS,
Go.
red line monitor,
Go.
quality,
Go.
op safety manager,
Go.
ULA safety officer,
Go.
vehicle system engineer,
Go.
anomaly chief,
Go.
range coordinator,
Go.
launch director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC, verify T0 is set for 1030 Zulu.
Verified.
Polling is
ABE,
complete
issue MRK.
and the team is go for launch. From T-minus 7 minutes until liftoff, you'll hear Dylan Rice and the team performing the final steps in the countdown procedure. Several critical activities occur in the final minutes before launch, including verifying fuel tank levels and pressures in the booster and Centaur and arming the flight termination system. At T-minus 1 minute, the Range Operations Commander confirms the range is in a green condition for launch. At T-minus 25 seconds, you'll hear Go Vulcan, Go Centaur, Go Cert-2. This is the final status check of the rocket and payload readiness. At T-minus 6 seconds, initiation of the launch pad water deluge system occurs. At T-minus 3 minutes, the main engines ignite. Then after seeing Vulcan lift off from Slick 41, you'll begin hearing flight commentator Hannah Peters providing launch vehicle ascent data.
Establish scan pattern 71.
Roger.
And if you're just joining us, L
All
minus,
steps complete prior to terminal count.
we are awaiting the beginning of terminal count and the resumption of the countdown of the T-minus clock.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. We anticipate releasing the hold in just a few moments.
On my mark, the time will be T-minus 7 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark. 6:55.
The countdown clock is resumed and we are go for launch at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. After liftoff, ULA's Vulcan rocket will head southeast from Space Launch Complex 41. Here's a look at today's ascent.
And if you're just joining us, L-6 minutes, 25 seconds and counting. The clocks are running. Both T-minus and L-minus are synced, and we are in terminal count. United Launch Alliance Vulcan Centaur is ready for launch. If you happen to be out on the Space Coast, now is the time to head outside. Get ready to take those photos and videos of today's flight as we count down the final minutes of the count until Vulcan Centaur's second certification flight. T-minus 6 minutes and counting. Weather is 95% go for launch. Vulcan is ready, fueled up, ready to go. Payload is go, range is go. If you haven't yet, take a moment to take and share out the stream and engage that like button. It's free to do, and we appreciate your support in doing that. Today's Vulcan has 2 SRBs on the side and those 2 BE-4 engines at the base for flight here today. We will, of course, be listening in to ULA launch commentators for the launch flight data, so we'll be listening into them through the final minutes of the count. We'll be taking a look outside the TLP Space Coast studio here with our rocket chasers scattered around the Space Coast, ready for live coverage for here today. Make sure to check out our Discord. That's where our community hangs out in between streams to see photos from our TLP rocket chasers who are out on the Space Force base this morning for viewing, as well as a few hours from now when we get back out to the pad to get access to those incredible remote cameras. Our rocket chasers placed those yesterday morning, and we have had cameras sitting out at Space Launch Complex 41, braving the weather, ready for today's flight. So send in prayers they're not foggy, and that everything is ready for liftoff here in just over 4.5 minutes time. Now, as we get into those final minutes of the count, we're going to listen into launch commentators. So we're going to do this a little bit earlier than we normally do on a Falcon, but let's see that go, no go from you guys in the chat. If you're not a TLP member yet, consider hitting the join button just like Asa did to get access to those custom TLP launch emotes. If you don't have those, you can, of course, just type in the chat as well. We really do appreciate your support. All that goes into expanding our equipment to bring you even better coverage of everything space from around the world. L-4 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. Let's listen in to launch control as we count down to the second certification flight of Vulcan Centaur. We do have those control nets up. They may be quiet at times. That is an okay thing. We are now just over 3.5 minutes till launch of Vulcan.
Hydraulics at pre-launch.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 3 minutes and 22 seconds. Following liftoff, viewers watching in Florida may be able to see Vulcan in flight as it heads east. To get a closer look at this map, check out ULA Launch on social media. T-minus 2 minutes. The launch vehicle, ground systems, and eastern range are go for launch. For those of you just joining us, I'm Andrea Lenhoff, your host for today's live coverage of ULA's second Vulcan rocket launch. At this time, the team is not working any issues, and we're proceeding towards an on-time liftoff at 6:30 a.m. Eastern.
T-minus 1 minute, 51 seconds.
LC, this is flight control.
Go.
Flight control is ready to reset the clock to T-minus 7 and holding.
Roger. ALC, reset the countdown clock to T-minus 7 minutes and holding.
Roger.
LC, Peony-2.
Go, Peony-2.
Centaur, LH2 and LO2 tank venting in progress.
Roger.
LC, Peony-1.
Go.
Vulcan tank pressures are stable.
Roger.
And if you're just joining us, we
LC
have had
countdown clock is reset to T-minus 7 minutes and holding.
we have had a hold called on the net at T-minus
LC,
1
this is flight
minute,
control.
52 seconds.
Go.
Step 50 SS VAPS in active SCS in pre-flight mode.
Roger.
They are rolling the clock back to that T-minus 7 minute mark where we were. They do have time to recycle, depending what the call was, so no S has been called yet. We are waiting for updates. We're just back at that 7 minute
Vulcan
mark.
Mission Control. The team has reset the clock to T-minus 7 minutes and holding. We are waiting for more information on an updated T0.
We are listening into the control nets for an update. Holding at T-minus 7 minutes. The hold was called on the net at T-minus 1 minute, 52 seconds. This can happen. They do have time to
LC,
recycle the clock.
Peony-2.
Go.
Centaur tank pressures are stable.
Roger. OSM, place SRB ignition SNA switch to disabled position.
SRB ignition disabled.
All stations recycle systems back to T-minus 7 and holding configuration. Hold occurred at T-minus 1 minute, 51 seconds. Report status at completion. Airborne electrical LC.
Go ahead.
Transfer transmitter battery external.
Roger.
LC, Peony-1.
Go.
First step 260, substep alpha, Peony-1, Vulcan pneumatics pressure stable.
Roger.
LC, Peony-2.
Go.
Step 260, substep Foxtrot, CEC active.
Roger.
And substep Golf, sensor pneumatic system stable.
Roger.
LC Prop 1.
Go.
For step 260, substep Delta and Echo, Vulcan propulsion and hydraulic system stable.
Roger.
If you're just joining us, you are listening into the mission control nets where they are safing the vehicle in preparation to see what the hold was and see if they can reset that clock and begin the count again. We are currently holding at T-minus 7 minutes. They are working to recycle. Officially, we have an update from ULA. We are recycling the Vulcan rocket countdown to prepare for another opportunity to conduct the Cert-2 launch today. We have an available window until 9 a.m. Let's continue to listen in to launch control.
LC, airborne electrical,
This LC.
step 260, substep Papa, airborne electrical ready.
Roger.
LC Lock 1.
Go Lex 1.
Vulcan LO2 continuing topping.
Roger.
LC, this flight control.
Go flight control.
Substep Lima, flight control ready.
Roger.
LC has gas.
Go has gas.
For substep India, has gas ready.
Roger.
LC Fuel 1.
Go.
Step 260, substep Charlie, Vulcan LNG, continuing topping.
Roger.
LC RLM.
Go.
Op 100, step 260, substep November, complete.
Roger.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. While we await a new T0, RS rocket ship, ULA's specially designed cargo ship, delivers our rockets to our launch sites in California and Florida. Let's take a look at this unique capability.
And maybe let's take a look at the pad instead, but we're going to watch another video, that's alright. We are currently holding at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. Teams are continuing to safe the Vulcan and work to recycle that countdown. They do have backup opportunities, or backup window, a launch window, all the way till 9 a.m. Eastern, so 2 hours, 20 minutes from now. And teams are evaluating what caused that hold to be called on the net. We have not had an update on that. That is probably one of the main things we're waiting on, is as teams evaluate why there was a hold called on the count. But weather continuing to look good here on the Space Coast. And we are awaiting an update on what this new T0 launch attempt will be. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live. Sadawat, thanks for sending in that super chat there, saying wait for it. That's exactly it. We're going to sit here and wait for it. We've got T-minus 7 minutes and holding. I think that's a great sign that they are going to attempt to recycle the count. And we'll just have to follow along for updates as we await them. They are going to play through some probably videos here as we await those updates on the launch control. And unfortunately, when they play a video, we don't get to listen into the launch control nets. But the moment the video is done with its copyrighted music, we will, of course, listen back into launch control for an update on how everything is proceeding. As I said, though, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live while we continue through today's flight. Right now, they're playing a video here of their rocket ship, of how they go from their development factory down the Mississippi River, down to the Gulf of Mexico, where then they head out either around the Florida state or all the way out to California, depending where they are launching from. Now that California's been quieted down, as they don't really launch from there anymore, but they are making upgrades to their pad out in California so that they can begin launching or continue launching from there again. So it's been a while since we've seen a flight out of Vandenberg for the United Launch Alliance, but they are working to get back out there, which is a great sign, again, that they're continuing to expand their capabilities and bring these vehicles online more and more. Someone saying they're so invested in this time lapse. It's quite the time lapse to see how far this vehicle has to travel just to get to a launch site. It is a long journey. So all of us down here on the Space Coast definitely get excited when the rocket ship arrives into town. It's got something exciting on board, and it takes it a fair amount of time. Rocket ship is actually the rocket ship is actually currently in dry dock, going through some refurbishments, a new paint job, and stuff as they continue ULA's expansion with the Vulcan. They've got at least 2 Vulcans here, one on the pad, one now out in the hangar, and I believe there's an Atlas here as well. So they've got a little bit of rockets that they have the time to send the rocket ship into dry dock for some refurbishments and upgrades. It's quite the journey it has to make, though, to get up and out of the Gulf, and then it heads straight down to Florida and around the state, and then up the eastern seaboard to the Space Coast. If you do happen to visit the Space Coast while the rocket ship's in town, you are able to see it from some public areas. You can't get right up next to it, but you can see it from a public road. It's always cool to see, and if you're lucky enough to see it when it comes into the jetty and into the port, like we just see there in the last few minutes of the time lapse, it's definitely something you are able to see. If it does have to go out to California, it is a much longer journey where they do have to go all the way down and through the Panama Canal to get all the way through, which is a very extensive journey. So they try not to do that that often. But They will go to Florida, first to reset before they end up going through and doing that journey down to the Panama Canal. Having sailed only from Port Canaveral down to Honduras, which is that kind of second bump of white in the middle of the map there, having sailed that, it is a long journey for them to get down to Panama and all the way around to Los Angeles. I've actually looked at doing a sailing of that next year, possibly. Not on rocket ship, but be amazing just to have an idea of what that journey is truly like, because it is quite the journey. It takes a couple of weeks to do it. But you can see there those rocket ships, how it unfolds the back door, and they can just roll out a vehicle depending what they're flying. On board there, it looks like they're unrolling multiple Atlas components. It's a larger vehicle, so they are able to carry, at least one rocket, if not multiple rockets on board. So when they do have to do that longer journey, they're able to do it once for a mission, or possibly for multiple missions. If you're just joining us, though, we are currently sitting at T-minus 7 minutes and holding, waiting an update from Launch Control on what the new T0 will be, if they are going to be able to reset today's clock and go for another countdown here today. We do have 2 hours, 15 minutes left on the window. Let's listen in to Launch Control. So we have an update from Tori Bruno saying that they have a transient on the redundant data system. It was an automated hold, and they are checking and recycling. That came in across X from Tori Bruno, the CEO of ULA. Continuing to listen in to Launch Control, awaiting an update on that new T0.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. As we await a new T0, let's check back in with Arlena Moses to get another weather update.
Thank you, Edra. Taking a look at radar here this morning, we've had a few more showers develop here across the Gulf Stream, which is located about 20 miles offshore, but they continue to be low enough topped that we're not expecting any significant launch weather concerns. Though, as we continue to push into the window, they will approach the coast. Generally, when we get within 10 nautical miles, which is that white circle that we look at, we have to see them get a little colder topped, a little taller tops, usually about in the 15, maybe 20,000 foot range. And right now, they're kind of below that, so not continuing to be a launch weather concern. So if we go to our forecast, still looking pretty similar for what we were seeing earlier this morning. Overall probability of violations, very low, 5%. Continuing with our breezy easterly winds with temperatures in the low 80s and no significant launch weather concerns. Back to you, Andrea.
And we have received an update from United Launch Alliance.
LCM1 AC.
Oh.
Go AC.
I have a recommendation for you for R11 line item adjustment.
Proceed.
Okay, we want to take the following 8 line items from a value of 31.1 to 32. These line items are 188, 191, 194, 197, 207, 210, 213, 216.
All right, I copy line items 188, 191, 194, 197, 207, 210, 213, and 216. All those are currently set to a value of 31.1. The new value of 32 is the direction.
Affirmative.
RLM, LC?
RLM, go.
And did you copy the recommendation from the team?
Yes, I did, and ready to implement.
Roger, please put that in work and report when complete.
Copy.
So an update there on the launch control net, some adjustments in launch control. ULA releasing a statement just a minute ago. The engineering team is working through the details of the issue that caused the countdown to automatically stop just after the Vulcan rocket switched to internal power. We have not yet established a new T0. So they are continuing to work the issue and are waiting to fix the issue before setting that new T0. So we are still holding at T-minus 7 minutes.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. As we look at this beautiful sunrise over Slick 41, we continue to wait on a new T0. Reminder that our launch window today extends to 9 a.m. Eastern. The team continues to work on a new T0, which we will share with you when it becomes available.
LCRLM.
Go.
Limits changed on 8 requested line items to upper from 31.1 to 32.0.
Roger.
LCM1 AC.
Go.
Ready to provide you a recommendation.
LD Net 1.
LD.
Proceed, AC.
Okay, the team has reviewed the hold that was put into place and isolated that to the VCU line items. We have adjusted the 8 line items affected by this voltage concern. We have no other concerns with proceeding and are recommending another attempt.
LC concurs. LD.
LD concurs.
And go ahead, LD.
LC, let's please coordinate and implement a new T0 of 11:25:0:00 Zulu.
Roger. RC, LC Net 1.
RC, go ahead.
Please coordinate a new T0 of 112500 Zulu.
Roger.
ALC, please set the countdown clock for a new T0 of 112500 Zulu.
Roger, and work.
And there's what we've been waiting to hear for the last about half an hour. The clock is running. L minus 25 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting till launch of Vulcan Centaur.
And proceed again toward another terminal count run. PNE2, LC.
Good.
Initiate CUC airborne pre-chill.
Roger.
LC, RC.
Go.
The range has approved our new T0 of 1125 Zulu.
Roger.
And LC, ALC, countdown clock has been set for new T0 of 1125. We're currently at L25 and counting.
Roger. LOX 2, LC.
LOX 2.
Perform Centaur LO2 fill and drain valve cycle test.
Roger.
Fuel 2, LC.
Go ahead.
Perform Centaur LH2 fill and drain valve cycle test.
Roger.
Has gas, establish scan patterns 62 and 63.
Roger.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. As you just heard, a new T0 has been established at 7:25 a.m. Eastern.
L minus 24 minutes.
Roger. Resume Centaur LO2 topping at flight level.
Roger.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. ULA also launches Atlas rockets here in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Let's take a look around.
And if you're just joining us, we are at L minus 22 minutes, 15 seconds, and counting till launch of Vulcan Centaur. And the operational clock, T minus 7 minutes and holding. We are awaiting that go, no go terminal count again, that at that 10-minute mark. So we'll be running through this just like we did about 40 minutes ago, and we'll be listening into that. But now under 22 minutes and counting till launch of Vulcan Centaur. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream, invite people back to join us. I see some questions coming in the chat. Cosmic, what is LNG? LN2 would be liquid nitrogen, if that's what you're referring to, which is a fuel that they use on board Vulcan. I believe that's probably what you're talking about. Scad, how do I get a TLP membership from YouTube? You hit the join button down below, 99 cents a month. There's a few other options depending on some of the benefits that you want. But definitely can check that out, and all that goes into helping support what we do, and we appreciate that support. We are at 95% go for launch weather-wise. The sun rising over the Space Coast. Beautiful flight. I will say, from a operations perspective, All of the photographers out on the pad that set remote cameras yesterday morning set them based on the fact that it was going to be a nighttime liftoff. So keep in mind when you see remote photos coming out later today from out at the pad that they were set for a nighttime liftoff, not a daytime liftoff. So we'll see what comes out from those pictures. Hopefully something, of course, stay tuned to our Discord and our social media for those photos when they come out. Also, if you're interested in joining us as part of the TLP crew and it's your passion and you believe that space is better together and you want to help inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, you can hit that apply button in the chat. There's a link there where you can send in an application. We are looking to expand our team of moderators, so definitely send in some applications there. Or if you're interested in being a writer or journalist, we would love to have you, some of you, join our team as we work. Let's listen in.
Systems, the spacecraft, and the U.S. Space Force.
They got me with a video? They got me with a video? Wow. L-minus 19 minutes, 45 seconds and counting. That's what it's going to look like in about 9 minutes from now when they run a go, no-go. It's been an early morning, folks. Forgive me. That's great. There's kind of a fake jump scare there from ULA of the go, no-go poll. We're a few minutes away from that as we get ready for the next flight of Vulcan Centaur. Simon, they got you with the video. Yep, they did. They did. Just with a video. Just with a video. Definitely need some coffee. We are at L-minus 19 minutes, 5 seconds and counting on the L-minus clock, 7 minutes and holding on the T-minus clock. And we are awaiting that go, no-go to enter terminal count. That'll be right around that T-minus, or L-minus 10-minute mark. Weather continuing to look great on the Space Coast. 95% go for launch. Daniel, did those spin launch guys run out of money, or is that still a thing? It is still a thing. A lot of people think spin launch is a really great idea once we're on the moon. But maybe not from Earth. You are looking at a live view now of Space Launch Complex 41 on the beautiful Space Coast here in Florida. So we count down now just over 18 minutes and counting to that new T0 that has been launch authorized, and we are awaiting the go, no-go to enter terminal count of the Vulcan Centaur. We do have launch control nets pulled back up, so we'll be listening in to there. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live while we go through these final minutes of the count. I want to give a huge shout out to our TLP Rocket Chaser team that have all been up very, very early this morning to get out onto the Space Force space and as around the Space Coast. I know we've got Gavin out there, we've got Trevor, we've got Josh, Danny, Wade, Eric. Thank you all for being out there so early this morning, getting ready to capture it. I know Danny and Josh got cameras out set up remotely, so we're fingers crossing that they've made it through the night, and that we'll get something from those in the coming hours once we have liftoff. So make sure to stay tuned to our social media and our Discord to see those photos come out when they do come out. Little update for some items in the shop. We're looking at rolling out some new stuff over the coming weeks, and our 2025 calendars are coming very soon. So make sure you keep an eye out for when those drop. We'll be putting those out on the website, and we're even looking at. We'll do a poll actually in the chat. Do you guys want a signed calendar option? Something we've seen people request before, but if you were considering buying a calendar, would you want to have an option of getting like a Zach signed one in the shop? Something we figured we'd ask. It'd be new to me. I'm not saying we need to do it, but I know we've had some requests, so figure we ask you guys in the chat what you guys think, because it's definitely something that we can do. But we're going to be rolling out a few different calendars, so make sure you stay tuned to those. We also have our incredible Rocket Chaser posters available. We do have metal prints available as well, but we do offer all of our stuff in posters, trying to make them a little more affordable and accessible to everyone. L-minus 16 minutes, 7 seconds and counting. Awaiting that
L minus 16 minutes.
go, no go for terminal count.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. As we move toward a target T0 7:25 a.m. Eastern for Cert-2, earlier this year we launched the inaugural flight of the Vulcan rocket. Let's take a look back on that spectacular flight.
LC Prop 1.
Go.
G&G Snapper Purge cycle test complete.
Roger.
L minus 13 minutes.
Flight control, perform launch on time verification.
Roger.
OSM, place SRB ignition SNA switch in the enable position.
SRB ignition enabled.
Verify the FCO, ROC, and OSM hold fire switches are in the proceed position.
Ready to proceed.
RC, verify solar radiation acceptable for launch.
Verified.
PNE-1, verify post-liftoff launch head umbilical purges configured for launch.
Verified.
Launch on time verified.
Roger.
L minus 12 minutes.
Terminal count briefing. If a condition exceeds a launch constraint anytime after the terminal count status check, the observer shall announce hold, hold, hold on channel 1, identify their station, and briefly state the reason for the hold. RLM, verify red line monitor and event table in the correct configuration for terminal count.
Verified.
LC Lux 2.
Go.
Centaur LO2 at flight level.
Roger.
LC Fuel 2.
Go.
Centaur LH2 at flight level.
Roger. LC switch is ready. All steps are complete prior to the status check.
Out minus 11 minutes.
We remain in the hold as we continue towards liftoff. In a few moments, launch conductor Dylan Rice will pull the launch team for the final go to pick up the count. 29 engineers and managers are pulled for system status and readiness to proceed. This is the final status check for all Vulcan vehicle systems, ground systems, and the U.S. Space Force Eastern Range. The vehicle system readiness pull includes electrical systems, hydraulics, pneumatics, propulsion systems, flight control, and propellants. Let's listen in as Dylan Rice performs the final pulling.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. Vulcan systems. Propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LNG.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur systems. Propulsion.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
Has-gas.
Go.
Electrical systems. Airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
CCQ.
Go.
Off support.
Go.
COM.
Go.
Umbilicals.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Redline monitor.
Go.
Quality.
Go.
Op safety manager.
Go.
ULA safety officer.
Go.
Vehicle system engineer.
Go.
Anomaly chief.
Go.
Range coordinator.
Go.
Launch director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC, verify T0 is set for 112500 Zulu.
Verified.
ABE, issue MRTU sync pulse.
Roger.
Secure transmitter battery heater and transfer battery internal.
Polling is complete and the team is go for launch. From T-minus 7 minutes until liftoff, you'll hear Dylan Rice and the team performing the final steps in the countdown procedure. Several critical activities occur in the final minutes before launch, including verifying fuel tank levels and pressures in the booster and Centaur and arming the flight termination system. At T-minus 1 minute, the Range Operations Commander confirms the range is in a green condition for launch. At T-minus 25 seconds, you'll hear Go Vulcan, Go Centaur, Go Cert-2. This is the final status check of the rocket and payload readiness. At T-minus 6 seconds, initiation of the launch pad water deluge system occurs. At T-minus 3 seconds, the main engines ignite. Then after seeing Vulcan lift off from Slick 41, you'll begin hearing flight commentator Hannah Peters providing launch vehicle ascent data.
Well, I hope my water deluge at the launch pad doesn't activate at that point, but I hope it does out there on the pad. If you're just joining us, L-minus 7 minutes, 35 seconds, and counting till launch of Vulcan Centaur on its second certification flight. We just heard there a complete go across the board, ready to pick up terminal count in just over 30 seconds from now. As we go through these final minutes of the count, we're going to listen in directly to mission control. So we're going to do it a little bit earlier than we normally do. Let's see that go, no go in the chat again from you guys. If you're not a TLP member yet, consider hitting that join button. 99 cents a month gets you access to those TLP launch emotes. And let's listen in to launch control as they get ready to pick up the count.
Minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark.
And the clocks are running.
Ground pyros enabled.
The countdown clock is resumed and we are go for launch at 7:25 a.m. Eastern.
551. Securing Centaur LO2.
Securing Centaur LH2.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T-minus 5 minutes and 27 seconds. As a reminder, following liftoff, viewers watching in Florida may be able to see Vulcan in flight as it heads east. To get a closer look at this map, check out @ULA Launch on social media.
.459.
Securing Vulcan LNG.
Securing Vulcan LO2.
.410.
Foliage conditioning complete.
.330.
Hydraulics at pre-launch.
.249. FTS at Turtle. .238. .230.
CLO2 POP started.
T-minus 2 minutes. The launch
59.
vehicle, ground systems, and eastern range are go for launch. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Andrea Linhoff, your host for today's live coverage of ULA's second Vulcan rocket launch. At this time, the team is not working any issues, and we're proceeding towards a liftoff time at 7:25 a.m. Eastern.
135. FTSR. .120.
SCS count started.
115.
ECS, reduce ECS for launch.
Roger.
T-minus
1
1
minute.
minute.
Rock, report range status.
Range green. 45.
Vulcan tanks at step 3.
BE4 start box go.
28.
Verify ECS reduced for launch.
Verified.
Status check.
Go Vulcan.
Go Centaur.
Go Cert-2.
15.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. We have engine ignition. 1. And liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Vulcan rocket, carrying ULA's legacy of reliability, orbital accuracy, and high energy performance.
Everything looking nominal. BE4 performing as expected. All temperatures and pressures looking good. Vehicle has begun its pitch and raw program. We have 2 good BE4s.
You are hearing Hannah Peters providing launch vehicle ascent data.
And we've ended the pitch program. Vulcan's now at 1.5 or 0.5 Mach. The BE4 is now throttling down in preparation for SRB burnout. And vehicle is past Mach 1, Vulcan is supersonic, and maximum dynamic pressure. Coming up on SRB burnout. And we have indication of SRB burnout. Up next is SRB jettison. Body rates continue to look nominal, trending towards 0. BE4 is now throttling down, and we have SRB jettison. Vulcan is 19 miles in altitude.
We just heard confirmation of solid rocket booster jettison. We have about 3 minutes until we reach our next mission event, booster engine cutoff.
On RCS valve activation. Body rates continue to look good. And we're now just about 2 minutes to nominal BECO. And we've had RCS valve activation. Vehicle continues to look good. BE4s are performing as expected. Body rates are trending towards 0. And vehicles continuing down the range track, traveling currently at 4,600 miles per hour. Continue to have 2 good engines. Body rates trending towards 0. And we're now about 1 minute to nominal BECO. Vulcan is now 1/4 of its liftoff weight. And Vulcan is now passing the Kármán line. And we started boost phase chill down on the second stage engine. And the BE4s are throttling to maintain a constant acceleration. And we've concluded our boost phase chill now. And PU has gone to open loop. And we have BECO, booster engine cutoff. And we have Vulcan Centaur separation. And pre-start on LH2 and LO2. And we have full thrust on the RL10. And bearing jettison has been indicated. And we've begun thermal loop conditioning on the RCS. And fixed angles on Centaur PU. Vehicle is now 123 miles in altitude, 345 miles downrange, and traveling at 10,000 miles per hour. And we're getting indications that booster performance was within expectations. RL10 continues to perform nominally. And we are partway through a 10.5-minute burn.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 6 minutes and 20 seconds. We just heard flight commentator Hannah Peters confirm the successful completion of the early phase of today's flight, and all systems continue to operate nominally. Our next event, main engine cutoff, will occur in approximately 10 minutes. While we wait, I'm now joined by ULA's Space Force Program Manager, Megan Lapine. Megan, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Andrea.
I think we're all really excited that we just saw Vulcan launch for the second time. I know a lot is going on with us this morning, but why don't you tell me what's going through your head right now?
Sure. So I think it was a beautiful liftoff this morning. I think we're all really excited to see that. It's such a significant launch in terms of our certification and where we're going with Vulcan. So it was just a tremendous accomplishment from this team. Really proud to be part of the team that did this. Not just the ULA team, but also our Space Force partners, our suppliers across the country. So many people put in so much hard work, so much effort, so much dedication into this, and it's an amazing thing to see this morning.
You never think about it, but there's so many different parts that go into a successful, even just getting off the pad.
Absolutely,
launch. Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the countdown?
Sure. So it was a fairly quiet count to begin with. The team did have to work through a couple of items kind of at the end, which is why we have a window that we worked into. So the team is very experienced. The launch ops team here, the engineering team in Denver, very experienced and really able to, they have a good understanding of the vehicle systems, the ground systems, and we're able to kind of disposition those items and move forward. And we worked a little bit into that window and then got a nice sunrise launch. So
it was really
pretty.
Beautiful. I didn't hate seeing the sunrise. No. Not at all.
That was nice.
So we've talked a lot during the broadcast about how this is really important for certification, this launch today, and our government customers. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Actually, before the launch today, we had a chance to talk to our colleague, Greg Novi. He put together a little description of how we get new launch vehicles certified for national security space. So why don't we take a look at that, and then we'll talk some more.
Great. Let's take a look.
And good old ULA playing another wonderful video, rather than just saying it, but L plus 8 minutes, 45 seconds, and counting into flight. Things continuing to look nominal for today's Vulcan Cert-2 flight. I know some people were watching closely on that SRBs looking slightly different, but that's okay. They can look different. That's how SRBs work, and ULA is continuing to say everything is looking nominal for today's flight. Now, we are expecting the Centaur's first engine to run from 5 minutes 15 seconds into flight through 15 minutes 55 seconds. It will then have a second burn 30 minutes 53 seconds into flight, lasting just 1 minute to finalize it into that heliocentric orbit. If you did happen to get photos or videos of today's launch, make sure you send us those over on our TLP Discord or on social media, TLPN_official on X or the Launchpad Network on Facebook and Instagram. We'd love to see your photos of what your Vulcan Cert-2 flight looked like if you happen to be lucky enough to be down here on the Space Coast. Vehicle now flying over the Atlantic Ocean, it'll nip over the southern portion of Africa before going into that heliocentric orbit out near Australia. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on answering those live while we continue through our live broadcast. We'll be staying live as long as we're getting these updates from United Launch Alliance. Continuing to follow along. I know lots of people talking about the SRB, and we're going to... ULA has not said anything on how the SRBs performed, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that as we continue to monitor the certification to flight. Next big launch up on the schedule, there's a couple regular Falcon 9s, but the big Falcon Heavy launch of Europa Clipper. SpaceX still pending FAA approval to resume Falcon flights. If they do get a go, that is currently targeting October 10th.
That was a great video. So following up a little bit about what Greg is saying, why don't you tell us a little bit about how ULA has been working with the Space Force to certify Vulcan?
Sure. So as Greg mentioned, we've been working shoulder to shoulder throughout the entire design, development, test, build, and now operations for Vulcan with the Space Force. So they've been our partner throughout that process, and we continue to provide information, share data. And then with this flight, once we complete the mission today, we will provide them that data and then continue to support their certification efforts.
Great, that's very exciting. So, you know, you work with the Space Force pretty regularly, obviously.
Yes.
But what's next for the Space Force and ULA, and how is Vulcan a difference maker for the Space Force?
Sure. So once we get certification completed, that will allow us to be able to launch the national security space missions that we have on contract. So we have some, you know, that we're getting close to being ready to launch, and we're really excited to focus on those and the mission success for those missions. And Vulcan generally was designed to meet the entire range of the national security space requirements. So it has the Centaur 5 upper stage. It's the highest performing stage in the world. And that's really a difference maker in terms of being able to meet those most critical orbit requirements, the most stringent accuracy requirements, the most challenging orbits, delivering the spacecraft to where they need to be when they need to be there. And that's important as we continue to partner with our customer as their requirements evolve, will evolve, and be able to deliver the capabilities they need. And we're looking forward to building that partnership and continuing it.
Great. I'm super excited for the future with Vulcan and the Space Force.
Me too.
Thank you so much for joining us, Megan.
Thanks,
I'll let you
Andrea.
get back to console.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Just about 2 minutes to MECO, or to nominal MECO. Everything continues to perform nominally. The vehicle is now traveling at 14,500 miles per hour. And we're now approaching approximately 1 minute to nominal MECO. Everything continues to look good. Our Alton engine parameters are as expected. MPU is correcting as expected. And MPU has come off its lock stop.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 15 minutes and 35 seconds. We're approaching the first main engine cutoff. Let's listen in.
Car is now orbital. MPU has gone to open loop. Coming up on MECO. And we have MECO, main engine cutoff 1.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 16 minutes and 22 seconds. We just heard flight commentator Hannah Peters confirm the successful cutoff of the main engine and all systems continue to operate nominally. Our next mission event, main engine start, will occur in about 15 minutes. While we wait, let's hear more about the Vulcan rocket from Mark Peller, ULA's Senior Vice President of Vulcan Development and Advanced Programs.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are continuing to follow along with Certification 2. We are awaiting confirmation from the United Launch Alliance, but having talked to our team out on the field and reviewing the footage of the flight, popcorn is a best way of describing what we saw coming off of the SRB. And now multiple media entities are reporting it does look like the nozzle came off one of the two SRBs on board Vulcan. It looks like Vulcan may have skirted disaster during today's flight somehow. But it looks like Vulcan Centaur, second cert flight, may have lost its nozzle off of one of its two SRBs. We are awaiting confirmation or anything from United Launch Alliance, but this was definitely a not nominal performance of the two SRBs, even though ULA said it was. Let's listen in.
For that event. During the break, you'll continue to see the live flight animation powered by telemetry from the rocket as it makes its way to orbit. See you in about 5 minutes.
Okay, so I guess she's going to be back in 5 minutes. We'll listen in to launch control. But yeah, ULA spinning this as everything so far has been nominal, but reviewing the footage coming in from our team and media across the field.
And we've now secured power on our GPS transmitter and receiver.
It definitely was a off-nominal SRB flight. They just skirted it. We'll have to wait to see what some of the remotes are. We're waiting to get photos in from our team as well. As we have those, we'll post them to our Discord and social media. But Vulcan Cert-2 may be skirting disaster here this morning on the Space Coast. We're awaiting any sort of data from United Launch Alliance, but based on all of the footage we are seeing, it does look like the entire nozzle fell off of one of the two SRBs. We're awaiting updates from ULA. Let's listen in.
And we're now venting down on the LO2 and LH2 tanks. Vehicle continues to perform nominally in its PTC role. RCS firing as expected. And the vehicle has begun its turn to its MES-2 attitude. And Centaur has now begun to despin from its PTC roll in preparation for MES-2.
Welcome back. Thank you for following mission progress of ULA's Vulcan Cert-2 flight. If you're just tuning in, I'm Andrea Lenhoff, joining you from ULA's Advanced Spaceflight Operations Center at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. ULA's second Vulcan rocket lifted off at 7:25 a.m. and all systems continue to operate nominally. As we continue in second stage flight, let's hear from ULA's Director of Upgrades Development, Amanda Bicchetti, about the capability of ULA's venerable Centaur.
And if you're just joining us 26 minutes, 39 seconds into flight, we are still awaiting some sort of update from United Launch Alliance. We are now 4 minutes away from that second burn beginning for 1 minute to finalize its orbit. But at this time, we have still yet to have any sort of confirmation from them on an anomaly that occurred with the SRB, and it's very possible that they are investigating it and that will say here's something different. But those two plumes were definitely different. There was a major popcorn explosion on one of the two SRBs, and we are very, very lucky that we had Vulcan powering through, and that those B4 engines from Blue Origin somehow did obviously counter it and were able to still get it to its point. But it definitely looks like the engine nozzle casting broke off of one of the two SRBs. This is definitely going to lead to some sort of investigation, and we'll have to see ultimately what ends up being decided. But those two SRBs definitely were not functioning identically, and we'll have to wait to see what happens. We're, of course, waiting for the ULA to release a statement on what we're seeing, but they're going to definitely at this point have to, based on everything that has been captured by media across the Space Coast and their very own footage. If you haven't yet, head over to our Discord. We just dropped the first pictures coming in from our incredible rocket chasers that have been scattered around the coast. We got some of the first pictures in from Gavin, and they are absolutely, truly incredible. They will be up on our shop later today. So make sure you stay tuned to get your Vulcan Cert-2 photos over on the Launchpad shop. We'll be releasing them as posters, so make sure you stay tuned for those. We are awaiting that ignition of the Centaur for its second burn, MES-2, set 30 minutes, 53 seconds into flight, so just 2 minutes from now. And correction, that's not a 1 minute burn, that is a 4 minute burn that it'll be doing, with shutdown set 34 minutes, 54 seconds into flight. So we're going to keep a close eye on all of this as the morning progresses, and we'll listen back into ULA Mission Control in just a moment for a status update.
Seconds. We're about a minute away from the second main engine start. Let's go back to Hannah Peters.
And we have pre-start on LH2. And LO2 pre-start. Coming up on main engine start 2. And we have ignition and full thrust on the RL-10. And vehicles begun closed loop steering.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 31 minutes and 20 seconds. We just heard confirmation of second main engine start. While we wait for engine cutoff, scheduled to occur in about 4 minutes, let's take a look at how our Vulcan booster stage is painted prior to departing ULA's Decatur, Alabama factory. Engine cutoff in just over a minute. Let's listen in.
Vehicle continues to look good in this burn. Engine parameters are as expected. PU is correcting as anticipated, and our body rates are trending towards 0. Approximately 1 minute to MECO. Approximately 30 seconds to MECO. And we have MECO, main engine cut off too. We're now venting the fuel tank. We have approximately 2 minutes and 49 seconds until simulated spacecraft separation. We have full settling on RCS. And the vehicle is now rolling to its simulated SV SEP attitude. And RCS is now doing 50% settling and thruster warming. Body rates are trending towards 0 now. Coming up on our simulated spacecraft separation. Vehicle is now rolling, and we are depressurizing the LH2 tank. And we have simulated spacecraft separation. We now have an approximately 28-minute coast until the third burn. And vehicle has started its descent and is now pointing towards Cedrus. Passing 40 minutes into flight, Centaur continues to look good throughout this coast period. All parameters are looking nominal. RCS is performing its periodic firing, and our body rates are trending towards 0.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 41 minutes and 50 seconds. We just heard flight commentator Hannah Peters confirm the successful completion of the beginning of today's flight. This completes today's mission coverage. I am now joined by ULA's CEO and President, Tori Bruno. Tori, thank you so much for being here with me today.
My pleasure.
I've worked on this program for a really long time. I am very excited to see the beautiful launch. I feel like we waited for the perfect moment to lift off. So I just want to say congratulations. It's just an incredible day.
Well, thank you, and you too.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being here. It's my understanding you want to tell us a little bit about today's flight.
Yeah, so the trajectory was nominal throughout. We came to our first insertion on the orbit that we intended, so all of that is good. We did, however, have an observation on SRB number 1, and so we will be off looking into that after the mission is complete. Other than that, the flight was nominal.
And you know, that's the great thing about these certification flights is it allows us to get more information as we get into our regular launch cadence, but you know, just a testament to Centaur and Booster on how beautiful that launch was so far.
It was a gorgeous liftoff, absolutely.
Great. So as we continue on with this launch, after the launch, we'll go through, look at the data and just make sure that we're certified for, you know, national security space missions. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that certification means for ULA and the launch industry as a whole?
Yeah, certainly. Well, for ULA, we designed this rocket for the national security mission space. In completing the second certification flight successfully allows us to begin those missions that are urgent and important to the country. What it means overall for the industry is that we've introduced a new launch vehicle and a vehicle that is capable of launching at a pretty high tempo, and so we have broadened the entire country's capability for lift, and you will begin to see that launch tempo really tick up, especially next year.
I'm really looking forward to that. Who doesn't like a rocket launch?
Well, no one as far as I know.
I know, those people would be crazy. So I do want to say how hard it's been the past couple of years. Everybody has worked to get to this moment. I mean, this is kind of a pinnacle for us in terms of overall Vulcan development. Do you have anything to say to all of the folks that have worked on Vulcan over the years?
Absolutely. I just want to express my appreciation. Developing a new rocket is a monumental task. It is one of the pinnacles of engineering accomplishment. It truly is rocket science. Yes. Our team has worked so very hard over the last several years to design this rocket, to build it, to test it, to overcome the many technical challenges that are inherent to that. I could not be more proud of our team. Thank you all.
Thank you, seriously. This has been just so incredible to be a part of this team, and I don't think that there's anything I've been as proud of, besides my children, of course, to this moment. So now that we've launched, hopefully we'll get certification under our belts here shortly. What's next for Vulcan?
Well, we have a pair of national security missions in the pipeline. So we'll do those, and then we'll roll into next year with a whole number of flights.
Great. It's going to be an exciting year next year, for sure.
Yes, it will.
Well, Tori, I know you have to get back, but thank you so much for joining us today. I am very excited about today's launch, and I always appreciate your time.
Oh, you bet. Thank you. You're
Thank you
doing
so
a great
much.
job today.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. At this time, we'll end our live coverage. For more information about the Vulcan rocket,
And there we go. A statement from the CEO that they had a, quote, observation of an issue on their SRB. We'll wait to see a statement from the FAA. We already have a message into them, hoping to have a statement from them. But Vulcan somehow has flown, had its simulated payload deployment, and apparently is where they wanted it to be, even though somehow it lost one of those engine nozzles. So we'll have to wait for more information. I wouldn't be surprised if an investigation's ordered by the FAA, and we'll go from there. That's going to do it for our TLP launch coverage, though, of Cert-2 of ULA's Vulcan Centaur. It went well, but it could have gone very differently if anything changed just by a billionth of a percent. With that, if you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, space news update, or exclusive one-on-one interview, because here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we will see you next time from our TLP Space Coast studio. Have a great weekend.